slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ayy, coming down like precipitation. I ain't never met a limitation. Hate plotting my elimination. Gotta go to Google for the information. I'm a superstar, so I gotta shine. Top dollar be the bottom line. Bottom feeding niggas out of line. Turn your heart rate to a dotted line. Yeah, my zodiac probably dollar sign. Got the energy to win it, my nigga, I'm feeling great. Got a date with destiny, focusing on my fate. I don't give a fuck what you rapping, you been a fake. I'm everything that they ain't, it can't be, it won't be. Wanna see me fall, I can't go, I won't leave. Coming from the block with plain clothes and police. Straight up to the top with bankrolls and rollies. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ayy, 12 can't really stop shit, so I'm still pushing like a mosh pit. Ice dripping, think I'm hot shit. In a yellow bucket with the mop stick. I've been jugging jams like wholesale. Everything must go sell. Hitting bitches with the oh well. Need 100 million on the low scale. On my worst night, I'm the best nigga. Wouldn't mess with you, couldn't cap to him. Homie spotted me like 700, brought 1100 right back to him. If I can't do it, then it ain't real. I just make dollars, I don't make deals. I've been going hard in the paint, still blowing cushion clouds till I can't feel like. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
All right, hello, and welcome to week number 7 of the Conqueror League of Titan Esports. And I gotta say, today is an absolute banger of a match because we have the top 2 seeds of Group B facing off against one another. But that's not all, because it is a 4-way tie for first right now. So this means so much to both of these two teams. I am Anti. I'm joined today by Crawl, and gotta say, Crawl, I love what you've done with your hair today.
Yeah, got kind of go all bold, you know.
You know, nice and shiny. But yeah, either way, all things considered, 4-way tie for first place is an absolute banger way to start off the day. I mean, regardless of who ends up coming out on top, right? Conspiracy Esports and Omega 3 are both very strong teams coming into this one. They have dominated their entire group, and both of them, I believe, only have 1 or 2 sets dropped as a whole.
Yeah, and to be honest, I feel like Omega coming in like in week 6, they dropped their cross group match, so they were actually like in a more confident spot that they would like probably end first or second, but one loss, especially in a tight group like this, it can mean a lot, and yeah, it puts them in. Maybe they can even go all the way down to fourth. I think it's one of the possibilities. But yeah, we've got a really exciting matchup. It, as I'm saying that, like Omega is coming off a loss last week, and Conspiracy kind of took care of business last week, going kind of 2-0.
I mean, Conspiracy been very, very solid the entire way through. And obviously, that's not to say anything against Omega 3, but it does make you wonder a little bit, right? Because the way how you really tell how strong a team is figuring out how strong are they when they come back from a loss, right? It's not just about how often can they win the whole time. It's if you lose once, do you just mental boom and explode? I don't know. Either way, we're going to have to see on the Rift itself. And we're going to be going into draft to try to figure out what these two teams have a big focus on.
Yeah, I mean, looking at their previous drafts, it looks like the side of Omega, they really like to play stuff like the AD Bruiser jungles. I think it's one of the specialty that Caxi has. I've actually known him for a while now, even from his time in Gold. And he's been like that kind of utility, not really as carry, but just kind of set up his team as for success type of jungler. And we will probably see picks like that. The Ivern ban I really like from the side of Omega as well. I think Lucid had a really good performance on it last week.
Yeah, I mean, Ivern, one of those champions that I think has gone under the radar for far too long. We say under the radar. I think basically everyone and their mom has known for years. Ivern's really good. He's just really boring and really not that fun to play. But in a competitive setting, you pick what's good, you show off what you find really, really strong. And Ivern's one of those picks you're just going to take away from that. And that is 4 jungle bans into the immediate Jinx lock in. I mean, with Jarvan taken off the table, with Amumu taken off the table, Sejuani as well, there's a lot of these champions that would be able to threaten Jinx in that backline to really get those engages off, and being able to take the Jinx immediately says, all right, give us something that can actually deal with this, because Jinx Lulu, I mean, Jinx Milio, there's so many things that you can pair with this champ to make her do so much.
Yeah, as you say that Lulu is kind of taken away. I mean, Tristana Lulu, I think it was like it's been a bot lane duel for the since of the release. Like these two champions go well with each other.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, you were on point. Like both Hyper, like these like enchanter supports are taken off the board. Tristana can be a flex though, so like if they really want to go that route, they can do like a double ADC. Ooh, we see the Darius, which is like has risen in popularity in the recent patches. The phase rush build, it is super annoying to play against. It is really just I played against it myself, and like there isn't really a way to stop him other than just drafting a bunch of CC, which for the time being the other draft doesn't really have that.
Yeah, but I mean,
he plays really fast as well. It is really
he definitely does play fast, and drafting CC to make sure that Darius can't do what he wants is one way to do it. Another way is just drag him into the death realm, Papa Zonia's, say, all right, you know what, you're not going anywhere, you're not going around my team. But I will also say, Darius on blue 3, very, very strange, because you expect to see the immediate slam on a counter pick, which we do have the Mordekaiser come on through. I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw the Darius as a flex if we're picking it in first rotation here. Either that, or they say, all right, Xanthor's Darius is absolutely crazy. You just got to make sure to get it really, really early on. And the Orianna, don't get me wrong, very good as a blind pick, but there's basically 0 picks that actually facilitate the Orianna so far. So I'm a little bit interested to see where this goes. The Maokai is almost certainly going to be going into that jungle, so it is going to be that Darius top. I don't know, we might still get those crazy swap shenanigans. But the last pick here for Omega 3 is the Morgana, and all of a sudden, Morgana versus Orianna, that is a matchup I haven't seen in a hot minute.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of hard to predict where everything is going, at least for the blue side draft. The Camille. I mean, the Camille, I think, is an okay matchup. Like, you just outscale the Maokai if Maokai goes top. But yeah, I mean, we'll see it in the champs, like, for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely going to see it. I mean, at this point, both the Maokai and the Darius can go into that top lane, but the Camille pretty much only goes top here. right? There's nowhere else for it to go, and it is going to be the double bruiser jungle. So it's just going to be smack on smack in that jungle. And top lane, on the other hand, Maokai's not going to be having a good time, just as you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the Morgana just for the sense that you at least, I think the only main reason you can lose this is that if Jinx gets Mordekaiser ulted, so you kind of take that out of the equation. Now Camille being on the enemy team kind of Hexic Ultimatum doesn't really care about that Morgana shield, but you just get a lot of push, you just get a lot of prio, you have good layer CC with Morgana. I've actually played with someone who was like a Morgana mid main, and yeah, they were great at it if you know how to kind of pilot, how to use the prio.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's got so much prio. You just get 3 points into that W and you're automatically clearing waves. But in the end, just as you were saying, right, the one way how to just take apart Omega 3's composition is to get on top of that Jinx. Make sure that Maddie doesn't have a chance to play the game. But if you put a black shield onto Jinx, Mordekaiser can't ult that. I mean, you don't have the ability to QSS, cleanse, Milia ult out of Death Realm by any means. So just make sure the Death Realm never actually happens and you're chilling. So as long as you can keep the Mordekaiser from getting directly on top of that Jinx, as long as you can keep the Camille from delivering that ball directly to the Jinx, I honestly think Omega 3 have a really, really solid composition in mind. At the very least, it's very clear what it is that they're going to be focusing on.
Yeah, I think they've got just like a great team fight comp. The Maokai kind of puts the comp together with like the front line, provides the CC, he's really tanky, like even sustains a lot. And on the other side, I think it is a really good comp to like kind of play through side lane, especially with the power of Camille. Once Camille hits 2 items, you will probably gonna see the shift in power in that matchup. But for the time being, we see junglers pathing kind of on the opposite sides. Both starting from their blue buff and pathing to of them going to the bot lane, and then the Mordekaiser will be going to maybe want to get some effective ganks on the top side of the map.
And one thing I also gotta say, right, Jinx is one of those champions that I honestly think gets very underrated in terms of her laning strength a lot of the time, because Jinx in the hands of someone capable just makes it so unbelievably oppressive in lane. Every single CS you walk up for, every single thing that you think to yourself, oh, I should be able to get a hit here or there, Jinx is always going to be able to get that hit back on top of you without drawing the minion aggro back if you're not positioning properly. In the meantime, Tristana says, all right, well, I'm always pushing the wave no matter what happens, because, you know, passive makes it pretty dang hard to freeze by any means. So pathing top to bot for the Darius makes it a lot more interesting, as a flash on the Darius as well means that you do have the ability to flash follow if there is that rocket jump to safety.
Yeah, I feel like it is more so just like safety, because you just want your jungler to be around every time you are either pushing, or you just want that a little bit of safety. You don't really need that type of safety for the Maokai. I thought it's like a more self-sustainable champion. If this Tristana doesn't get out of hand, Jinx can contest her around the 3 items fight. Now Tristana, she scales a lot with range, with the more levels we have, so she's definitely not really a champion to stop over once late game comes, but the resets on the Jinx, it's one of a kind almost. So I really like that the Taxi decided to kind of take the safe route, make sure the ADC is not going too far behind. They have the exhaust as well, and with both sides have. Oh.
Whoa! Yeah, and in the meantime, Xanthor just barely manages to get out, while also on the other side, Gunman almost dies there. Flash for flash burn. We didn't quite see how it happened. We're just going to take a quick replay here. But it looks like a gank into a dive, not quite going as planned. We can see right now, once again, Xanthor versus Gunman, just hit after hit.
Oh.
Flash to dodge that one in, but you got to be careful around the towers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Xanthor could have gotten the kill if he kind of uses
Q a little bit better, put the Camille back into third. He kind of pushed him out. But I feel like that's a worthy trade for the Maokai. Now the Camille's no sums. You absorbed the gank, you did fine. And I think that's like one of the best case scenarios that you can when you're getting ganked. Now the bad thing about that gank was the wave was really bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, look at the CS differential across the entire map. I mean, Maokai's down, Morgana's down, Jinx is down. The only one ahead is Kaxi on that Darius, just a little bit ahead, you know, maybe 1 or 2 camps. But okay, I gotta say, I am not nearly as familiar with Jungle Darius as I am with, you know, other forms of Darius. That is not an item I'm used to seeing in Darius's inventory.
Yep. I mean, it's just I think the recent build has been Yumu's into full movement speed. It's just, it is really oppressive once the second item comes through, especially if you're able to get the feeds. The champion just kind of turns into like an F1. Like you won't, you're not going to be able to flash away. He does, like, even if the fact that he's not running Ghost, it's normally an issue for Darius's because he can't get close enough. But shield.
Oh, and just like that, feels forced to burn the flash. The shockwave brings Kaxi back, and first blood over to Orianna. The fight isn't done just yet. Satsuki under tower. The Hextech ultimatum is dropped down, but no more kills going to be dropping for the side of Conspiracy Esports. In the meantime, Kaxi was really, really greedy to try to get up to these grubs, try to get up to fields, try to get some kind of punish in, but nothing really going to end up happening on the side of Omega 3 except dropping that first kill.
Yeah, I mean, going Yumu's has its own benefits, but also has its own issues. Oh, we see another
Yeah,
fight.
but in the end, Xanthor up in this top lane, gonna be able to lock down Lucid, and Kaxi drops the first kill and the first death. It seems like Omega 3 have one person in particular they're focusing on, and it's not this Jinx. Yeah, but oh my god, never mind. There's still more and more fighting going on. Xanthor and Gunman still not going to be the focus. Kaxi involved in yet another fight. Satsuki gonna be able to get that final hit in at the end, but you know, maybe I'll be able to get to rest my voice a little bit. In the meantime, Krull, how is this looking for Omega 3?
I mean, they're doing, I think, exactly what they're supposed to do. Like, even though the first gank eventually ended up Kaxi giving the first blood, he did blow the flash, and they just punished it right away. And it's like a good sign that they at least are keeping track of these sums. They know where they can play forward, where they can play aggressively. And yeah, like the thing about the Yumu's build on Darius is that he's really squishy, but does a lot of damage. So if you can sync up with your teammates and play for numbers advantage, he's going to do a lot of damage, especially with Amelia to kind of keep him up for that a little bit more time, maybe get a few passive stacks and get the ult off. Once Darius gets reset, the fight is pretty much over. So they've been playing around that really well. Kaxi will be really squishy still. I don't know how strong this Mordekaiser will be, just because I feel like Mordekaiser's main strength is the fact that he can pull pressure and then turn it into a numbers advantage. Now in jungle, you don't really get to do that. You just turn like a 3v3 into a 1v1 versus 2v2. So it's not always the best case scenario. I think he's going to be stronger once these actual team fights start, where he can maybe grab the front line from in Maokai or someone squishy and kill them. So I think for the time being, Kaxi will kind of keep that lead in the jungle just because of how much more you can provide.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. Got those early to mid-game builds, giving you a lot of that early and mid-game power. In the meantime, Satsuki is just going to be getting a little bit more damage off here. Feels commits the shockwave, and here we go. Ult for ulti, but here comes Lucid. Satsuki not going to be able to get the full kill. The flash forward, and a kill for Lucid, getting traded right back. Feat of Warfare for Omega 3. It seems like they are absolutely loving how things are going, but In the meantime, top lane looking very, very rough for Gunman here. Coxie also walking into the jungle, just saying, all right, you know what? I'm so far ahead of Lucid. I just get to do whatever it is I want. But that is gotta feel bad for Feels there. I mean, you look at a kill, you finally have the opportunity to get one, your jungler helps you secure it, and you still end up dying on that tormented soil. Morgana mid does so much more damage than anyone was ready for.
Yeah, this is one of those champions, you know, you just don't see them in mid. And normally when you see Morgana, she's like support, she doesn't have a lot of gold, and even then you just feel like she's doing a lot of damage. But when this champion has gold, it is really just the amount of DPS. If you get hit by the Q and you're just rooted in place, you kinda cooked. And you see another game from Taxi Fall, he couldn't cancel it. Not much.
All right, I mean, just gonna run up with that Yomu's active, gonna end up not getting the apprehend coming in. But Lucid sitting in this tri-bush, and all of a sudden Xanthor in a lot of trouble. You got a lot of point and click here. One Q to start things off, and the Nature's Grab's not gonna be able to get the Maokai to safety. But here we go, Hextech ultimatum committed, and there's no chance for this Maokai to get out safe here. In the meantime, yet another fight in that mid lane as we see the shockwave go through. Caxi gets yet another kill, but the Grubs still going to be able to survive. Are they going to continue to fight for it? They do have a 3 versus 3 opportunity here, and it is just going to be Conspiracy Esports taking the Grubs. One Grub taken away, so you're not going to be getting that full 6 at the very least. But Omega 3 just immediately turned towards that dragon.
Yeah, I mean, initially it was a really good play from Lucid. He was sitting in that tri-bush, so he waited until Taxi left and was on Grubs, so it was a good gank. But then the rest of the team was trying to rotate over to the Grubs, and they got caught by the trio of Taxi,
Leventine, I think, and Sayuki, so they were able to get something back in return. But when we look at the gold, it's like, yes, you're doing fine in the kill department, but this farm lead of top side, just like farming in general, has been really pristine, if you would say, for Conspiracy Esports, especially in mid and top lane. The soul lanes have been doing really good. So they're keeping up with the good pace of the game. It's still both anyone's game right now, but
yeah,
Feels,
but in the meantime, Feels is not enjoying this. Leave the Orianna alone. The shockwave committed, but the Q going to smash that Orianna straight back in, and yet another kill over to the Morgana. Morgana mid, a beautiful setup champion, especially when you got point and click CC to make sure that it all comes through. Taxi running into the top lane, making sure that there's no real tower take in response, but man, that's gotta feel bad.
Yeah, just too much CC, to be honest. Like, there isn't really anything else to say about it. Just the pure amount of CC from just Morgana Maokai alone is going to just tilt a player. Like, you just look at your death, like, and when you die, and then, oh, I was just CC'd for a cool 5, 6, 7 seconds, you know? Like, it's just the normal. And
yeah,
if you look at the gold, like,
yeah, that gold looking so rough on the side of Conspiracy, as you know, Feels definitely feeling it. I mean, you die, you go back, you pick up a Dark Seal, and you say, all right, you know what, I've died 3 times, it'll be fine. I'm just gonna stay alive, look to play for these team fights, make sure to get those Dark Seal stacks going up, and feeling real good. But in the end, it's still more and more devoted to taking this Orianna out of the game. As long as you can make sure that the Orianna isn't available to threaten that Jinx in these backlines, the only thing you have to worry about then is going to be the Mordekaiser. And when you only have one person to worry about with Mordekaiser, and you can black shield your hyper carry, things are looking very good for Omega 3 here. In the meantime, Maddie just very quietly, very slowly been farming up in this bot lane. 134 to 133, 1 CS lead. Game's essentially over.
Yeah, I mean, especially with both of these supports kind of playing more around the mid and top lane, roaming for their junglers, these ADCs have been just like kind of chilling. You know what, handshake, farm. We're not really champions until we're like 2, 3 items we can't really contest anything. Is probably what they're thinking. So for the time being, I think they're both okay with how this game has been going. Now for Omega, I really like this. Almost every time I'm playing with an hyper carry, getting the first two dragons actually gives you a lot of options come mid game. Because if you're ahead, you can keep the dragon stacking. You can maybe look for a soul. Now if you're behind and you still got two dragons,
Oh, but in the end, you know, Caxi just walks on forward at a million miles an hour, just as you were mentioning earlier, Crawl. But just a quick buster shot out to safety, and there's just really nothing that the Darius can do, is what we think. But walking back in here, I don't know. Caxi definitely looking to get some shenanigans going.
yeah, I mean, he's just gonna keep looking for those with the blue smite, with all the movement speed he has. He's just going to be zooming around the rift. He's just gonna keep running the green every time he doesn't really have any camps to clear. Lucid makes the most out of it though. Grabs one camp, grabs the draw, and Darius is actually gonna be facing.
Oh, hello,
Lucid's
Caxi.
not looking.
Yeah, and Caxi already going to be able to go in, has all 5 stacks. Xanthor goes in, though, and that's a much worse place to be. You don't want to be 1v1ing against the Mordekaiser. Caxi over the wall, gets that ulti, gets that shutdown, and Gunman also in trouble now. The ult goes through the shutdown in response, and in the end, it's Fields versus Satsuki, and Satsuki's still going to be able to walk out to safety. Fields thirsting for blood, but all the blood goes elsewhere.
Yeah, must be feeling nice because that Seraph's just save his life there. It was really close, but I mean, I think initially Lucid was not paying attention. It took him a hot second to realize. I feel like if you're Xanthor, I think you just don't look for this play. Like it is still a map, it's still a Mordekaiser. You're just gonna get ulted and die. And then the flash comes through. It was a good follow. I was really surprised that Camille was even able to salvage this play. The damage is quite not there yet for the Darius. I think the ulti damage really starts to hurt once you're level 11, and once you're level 16, you kind of start one-tapping people with the ulti. But I mean, that's a good fight. Mordekaiser doesn't have ulti anymore, and Mordekaiser's the top ult is not as scary.
Yeah, not as scary, but right now, Caxi just also feeling no fear, running straight in through that front line. We already see how squishy the Darius is, but man does not care, just runs straight on in. Feels the only one really looking at the dragon on the side of Conspiracy Esports. Meanwhile, Hayasaka Ai just going to be walking up with the Orianna. It's no Kaguya, but definitely going to look to support the team. But in the end, Satsuki going to be able to keep Lucid away. Beautiful shockwave onto 3, but the blue team going to be able to take that Hextech drag. They're just going to walk away, and Maddie going to be able to secure that one. We were talking about how the Jinx was just farming up this whole game, but farming up dragons was not the place that we anticipated.
Yeah, and that's what you're thinking. They're actually on full point as well. Like 17 minutes in, probably going to be one of the faster soul takes that are capable in this game. And I mean, especially when you have a Hextech soul, it makes the game way easier. We see Lucid was kind of split up from the team. I mean, Heels, I think, did a really good job with really good ulti. And then yeah, like a 3-man ult. The Maokai ulti comes just in time though. It roots Lucid in place. He couldn't really get to the dragon to smite it. And yeah, they just used the Milio ult. Everyone run away. Everything is fine. We got the dragon. And I think they're really happy with how the game is going up until now. They don't have the grubs, but the game plan is just working for now. Now the next plan should be to get this Jinx a little bit more involved in these fights, get a little bit more gold into her. Once you can finish the IE, the Runans, then you can kind of just split the game open with your team comp, where they have a pretty strong CC layer for these team fights. You have a reset for both Jinx and Darius. I think they want to pick up the pace of the game a little bit more, because once this Camille gets a couple items, now then you're just gonna start struggling in these side lanes.
Yeah, I mean, Maokai is already struggling to keep up with the Camille by any means necessary, but in the end, it is just going to be a matter of Maddie as that hyper carry, right? I mean, you have that Black Shield available, you have the Milio with those warm hugs, you have so much auto range, so many things to auto, so many things to hit, but there's so few amounts of involvement for the team just hit. Oh my god, 3 autos and already less than half health. Typical name has to run away. And Conspiracy Esports just wanted to take a look at the mid lane farm, and apparently that's even a mistake.
Yep. And I mean, when we look at how both of these teams kind of try to play the game, most of the time when you look at Conspiracy Esports in their previous matches, they play through their soul lanes a little bit more than their ADC. They just kind of pick at scaling ADC and then call it a day. Oh, you see another fight?
Yeah.
Mordecai goes to come through.
Yeah, Death Realm comes on through. Xanthor should be more than fine here, though. Still very tanky on that Maokai. Gonna get locked up. The Shockwave comes through. Caxi forced to flash out, but Hextech Ultimatum makes sure to lock down that Darius. And that's the power of the solo lanes that you were just talking about, Crawl. You know, it's a matter of not looking just at the team fights. It's a matter of looking for those picks, looking to make sure that those solo lanes can do all the work that they can. Chuki gonna be able to get a lockdown onto Fields' teleport, but Maddie's still getting ever so much stronger in this mid lane. Hayasaka Ai walking up a little bit close there, but it's not yet break time.
Yeah, and like the point that I was trying to make was the fact that, like, yes, Conspiracy plays more through their soul lanes, but Omega, they normally struggle when Maddie is not like in a 1v9 mode really ahead. Like they want Maddie to get as strong as possible and kind of play through him, which I think the both team comps kind of show that. Oh.
Yeah, in the meantime, a typical name looking to try to take Maddie out, and Hayasaka Ai one auto away. The W won't quite do it. Lucid walks up, doesn't have the Death Realm available, not going to be able to land that pull either. And what started off as one huge all-in from a typical name just turns into a handshake away.
Yeah, and I mean, you just see the value of the exhaust. Just cuts off a lot of damage. Ulti was almost enough, and then Maddie really close to getting the first KP off the game, but not quite enough. They do force the wild growth, and they force the flash. Like there's not going to be a flash for Blue. I think that was not there last fight. But I think another important thing is that they were forced to use the exhaust. So now this fight, Camille or Tristan, if they can get a lot of damage in, there's really going to be any counterplay for that.
Yeah, but in the meantime, Caxi, the only one really walking on this front line. Here comes the Maokai ultimate, but no real in just yet. Root onto Lucid, taking a lot of damage here, but Gunman gonna get zoned off of that back line as Caxi just walks backwards. Shockwave onto Satsuki, but still one Camille into that back line, not gonna mean much. Maddie finally getting involved. And it's Conspiracy who take the dragon. No soul completed, and Maddie just goes wild, just gets to auto attack everyone across the board. One kill on the Jinx, and this is not boding well for Conspiracy fans.
Yeah, I mean, you denied the soul, but it's really bad team fight. I feel like Gunman he's jumped in 1v5 and then gave the Jinx a free reset. Like, you have to play slower. I don't even know if they can play these team fights other than the fact that maybe Gunman can force someone to answer in the side lane. Like, it's just like, I think this is where the team comp differences come in play. Like, unless you hit like a 4-man shockwave, unless you hit like an insane pick on one of these carries, it's going to be really rough. Because once Maddie flashes that, the backline is already chopped, and then Gunman jumps in, gives a free reset. Fields is pretty much cooked here. Like, there's nothing for the Orianna to be doing, and then she slows down. Another reset. The only one who can even get a kill here is Lucid in that death realm, and that's kind of like a consolation prize at that point. This team gets accelerated a decent bit, getting closer to the third item. Yet to finish the boots, but I guess it's worth mentioning the feats are also taken by Omega, so eventually when they finish those boots, they're going to have that extra bit of power, extra bit of movement speed, and movement speed is what Jinx and Darius really like.
Yeah, I mean, they love that movement speed, which honestly, I was a little bit surprised to not see a Shirelia's on the Milio, considering the composition here. But in the end, nothing too crazy going on the side of Omega. They're just decently far ahead as far as control goes. But if you take a look at the numbers, it's actually Conspiracy Esports, the ones with a 1,000 gold lead. I mean, those towers just paying off dividends. And it's just a struggle to see what exactly it is that Conspiracy can do to get back into this, despite the ones being the gold lead.
I mean, I feel like both teams are to some extent happy. Obviously, Fields being 1-5 kind of sucks, but like you have the gold lead on your Camille, you have the 2 items completed, you have the grubs, and all they need to do is like they just need to set up these side lanes, the side lanes, and kind of let Camille do what she does best. Split push, get some 1v1s on the Maokai, and if Maokai is not there, say goodbye to your tier 2. If you don't have a tier 2, say goodbye to your inhib. And Caxi, yeah, like you're forced to use the Buster Shot because he's just running at you with 700 movement speed.
Yeah, Caxi says, activates the Youmuu's Ghost Blade and says goodbye to your ulti. Either that or goodbye to your AD carry. You gotta choose one or the other. And with that ult off the table, and also with Fields not having flash available for this fight, that is a start on the Baron. So sorry, it's actually on the Otacon here, as in the meantime, it is going to be Gunman just fighting against that Maokai, as there's no way for Lucid to get in, but Lucid does get the ultimate onto Maddie here, kiting backwards, hit after hit after hit, and the Mordekaiser can't even get the full kill. Does barely manage to get the withdraw in the end. Caxi walking forward, a newfound confidence as if the man didn't already have some. But at the very least, it was that Otacon buff taken away, and 2 towers and an inhib in response for Conspiracy. And honestly, I gotta give the edge to Conspiracy there.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what they need to do. 3 people is kind of delaying them on the objective. They even like trade one of the Atacons, which kind of slows down Omega, because Atacon respawns are 15 seconds now. It's way slower than what it used to be. And they're able to create enough time for Gunman to take the bot tier 3, bot inhib. They get mid tier 2. That is a lot of gold injection, and a lot of the gold in this game is on these third objectives rather than the kills. If you're up 4 kills, doesn't matter. You're down 2k gold. So now the dragon you cannot really give because they gave the first 3 dragons. So I'm kind of interested to see how Conspiracy approaches this team fight. Important thing is Maddie doesn't have the Atacon.
Yeah, Maddie does not have Otacon and walked up in that frontline. Gunman directly onto that back. The shockwave hits Sue, but Maddie still free firing hit after hit after hit. Super Mega Death Rocket not going to be able to kill any of them. A flash forward for a typical name, but one more opportunity for Maddie. Once again in that death realm, kiting backwards, hit one more time by Lucid, and the shutdown onto the Jinx means that not only do they lose the dragon, they lose their tower taking ability.
Yeah, I mean, the side of Omega will be looking for the Baron, but they do not have Maddie, and they don't have their movements available to them. If they want to contest, they can. Lucid is not really a way for him to get into the pit. I feel like this Baron should just be safely taken by Omega. They can contest though. If you look at the waves in the bot lane, I'm surprised that Camille is TPing to the mid wave. There's a full-on super wave crashing on the base.
Yeah, in the meantime, Lucid gonna get locked up just barely outside the pit, and Xanthor is certainly gonna be going down. It is going to be Omega 3 picking up that Baron. Everyone scattering away like mice as Maddie is left alone to fend against those minions. In the end, Levantine going to be going down, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. Just as you said, right? I kind of anticipated the Camille to teleport directly into that pit. All right, but either way, I'm just gonna look at this dragon fight one more time. Take it away, Crawl.
Yeah, I mean, again, Maddie not having the sums. She does get jumped, but they were able to peel for her pretty well. They do get the reset, I think, off the bleed on the gunman, on the Darius bleed, so they do get the reset. But the damage was so much on to Omega that they had to really peel back, and that made them lose the dragon. And this kind of goes back and forth with like Maddie goes down, you don't have the Jinx for the Baron fight, and although they were able to get the Baron, it kind of kills their tempo. The fact that they dropped 2 people, they're not going to be able to play on these waves as fast as they did with Light. So there is some potential for this Camille to maybe get one of these side waves going, and pressure on the other side of the map that Omega is not playing for. And although they took the first 3 dragons, as we saw in the replay, they lost the last 2. And if they lose one more, then you start questioning, okay, if they lose Soul, is this game in risk? And
Yeah,
as we
but
say that,
right
we see a
now,
fight, though.
yeah, Caxi gonna get dragged into that death realm, but
100%.
Maddie takes out I, and all of a sudden the Jinx going toe-to-toe with that Mordekaiser, not a position where you usually see the Jinx surviving, but barely manages to get away from the shockwave in time. Levantine not gonna be able to keep Maddie alive, or will he? Instead, it is the Mordekaiser who goes down. Maddie gets a little bit too excited, walks forward a little bit too far, and Sachukian feels once again duking it out. 1v1, but the tower makes it far more unfair. And in the end, Gunman going to be able to take down yet another inhib. The Camille versus the Milio, certainly a matchup you don't want to be finding yourself in. But Levantine just looking to stay alive, looking to keep Gunman from taking the full-on towers. As yet another inhib goes down. The split pushing is going absolutely crazy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, inhib doesn't quite go
Gunman.
down, but in the meantime, Gunman just forced into yet another fight. You cannot outrun this Darius. Caxi still run forward, flashes forward as well, gets the dunk, and don't forget, level 16 dunk always going to be off cooldown, so no point in not doing it. But man, that was a disastrous moment for Omega 3 where, you know, Maddie just walks forward a little bit too far and ends up dying.
Yeah, I mean, he kited the Mordekaiser really well, but then got a little overambitious and then walked up just that tiny bit too much, and then gets hit by Shields' robotic ball, and then kind of gets one shot. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be like, can Maddie space well enough? Because otherwise, this
oh my god!
As I say that,
just as you say that, Maddie's just gonna walk up a tiny bit too far, gets taken out by the Tristana. Atypical gonna be able to get that 1 kill, but it all started with Fields' shockwave. 1 root from Sachuki, and there's shields on shields on shields to make sure that the Tristana stays alive. We've been singing Maddie's praises this entire game, but Tristana, atypical names Tristana, going to be able to bring yet another one of those hyper carries to the table. And Krull, you were talking about this earlier. If they drop 3 of these dragons in a row, dropping the soul becomes a real question. And Omega 3 might be absolutely screwed here.
yeah, I mean, they're also down 4k gold now. They have to deal with the sideways, especially the supers coming from the top side, and the inhib on the bot side was really low. So they're going to be forced to like catch these side lanes, and that is what Camille wants. She wants someone to be on the side lane so she can get a good 1v1. Every time that we've seen the side of Conqueror Esports try to 5v5, that's when things get a little bit rough for them. Because Camille cannot really provide as much in the team fight. But whenever you see like a 4v5 and then Camille on side, the things have been going really good. Because the 4v5 or 5v5 doesn't really change much for the Conspiracy Esports, but having the Camille on the side lane will force the side of Omega to like maybe go on timers that they wouldn't like. Because if they maybe hang around a little too much, the game will be over.
Yeah, and right now, Conspiracy Esports managed to spot 3 out of the 5 members of Omega 3 on this bot side. It means that this Baron is getting so unbelievably good setup for the side of Conspiracy here. The entire wave just going to disappear immediately. Maddie just going to go back, not looking to do anything too crazy. And I got to shout out Feels here. You know, started off that game 1-5, and now 5, 5, and 7, hasn't died a single time outside of that laning phase, and has the full 10 stacks on that Dark Seal. In the meantime, we are looking at the potential of yet another fight. Gunman still pushing out that side lane, still trying to make sure that there's no chance of a trade kill, but a typical name looking to get that one shockwave onto Maddie. Not going to be able to get it just yet.
Yeah, but I mean, Omega's timer here is really short. Like, Camille's already in the inhibs. There's a top super wave crashing down. So they either have to make a decision or they have to kind of give up. And then Mordekai's actually
and
they've
made that decision. Caxi and
Oh,
Lucid
Caxi.
just going toe-to-toe, just barely not going to be able to survive. And all of a sudden, the double kill coming in for Satsuki, the flash forward for the Morgana, triple kill. And all of a sudden, Gunman not going to be able to do much more in that base, as Maddie walking down that mid lane. Satsuki and Levington not going to be able to do much into the Orianna. The shockwave gets them both.
Oh, no.
The auto also takes down yet another in the 1v2. And all of a sudden, Maddie forced all the way back to base. Don't go for the replay, go for the end. And Gunman and Fields teleport in and end the game.
No.
It looks so good for Omega 3 until it all fell apart. Conspiracy Esports in a calm and methodical run back, gonna be able to take it in the end. Is not Omega 3's victory, it is going to be Conspiracy Esports taking it all.
I mean, the previous screen was what it should have been. if you really think about it. So I won't mistake the producers for that, but like it was really well. It's really well played from Conspiracy, because they eventually realized their win con and said, okay, we keep this Camille side lane, perma pressure the base. Oh, we even see it. We even see 12 view.
Hello?
Oh, damn.
Oh, man.
And
No, but yeah, I mean, it's exactly like what you're saying, right? So there's just so much power on the side of, you know, of Omega 3 in that team fight, right? But when it came to those side laning from Gunman on that Camille, it did so much power. Just as you were saying, Kral, the moment Camille gets to those two, you know, those two items, it gets so much more difficult for that Maokai. And man, look at how much damage Fields ended up doing at the end. I mean, this man was 1-5 in lane.
yeah, but I mean, it kind of shows how strong Orianna is when drafted in right spots. She's really good at zoning, especially against like two melees, and then a Jinx that is like, for her to really get an auto attack, Orianna's zoning is way above that Jinx's auto attack range. So every time Jinx is coming in, even with the rocket auto attacks, you're in threat of the shockwave. And I think Fields did a really good job after the laning phase, out of the laning phase, to really use that zoning and get some great ultis. And to be honest, although Camille was the one ended the game, Fields saved that. Like, that team fight was lost, and Fields was able to turn it around, get a kill on Leventine, get a kill on Sayuki, force Maddie to be like, am I gonna hit these tier 3s or have to reset? And then he was just too late on the reset when he finally decided to go back. So really well played. And I mean, I guess I was right. The fact that the solo laners won the game for Conspiracy Esports, that is how they play. And if you're not really on your A game in these side lanes against these guys, they will make you pay.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely did. And in the end, it is going to be Conspiracy Esports taking game number 1 in our road to the top here. Remember, this is a 4-way tie, so every single one of these games matters. So either way, speaking of which, don't go anywhere because game 2 is just around the corner. All right, hello, and welcome back to game number 2 of the 4-way tie-break match in Conqueror League. I mean, if you're just coming in right now, I am Anti. I am joined once again by Crawl, and I gotta say, last game was a banger and a half. It looked so unbelievably good for Omega 3 for the entire time until you look over to those side lanes and Gunman is just running down all of these towers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also comes down to like the fact that they had 3 dragons in a row and then they lost 3 in a row. It's like
Yeah.
and you do have the team fight like composition. You have to kind of get the last dragon. Even if you're gonna lose a tier 2, it should be for getting the dragon. It shouldn't be, oh, we lose the dragon and then we lose the tier 2 to Camille. And like we see the draft from last game and it kind of shows, right? Like Oriana, Camille, pretty okay side laners, especially into their counterparts that Omega drafted. I think Darius had pretty decent success up until mid to late game, where the Mordekaiser got the couple items and he started to like press W, and then Darius' ulti damage was gone on him, so he can take those 1v1s.
Which I gotta say, kind of insane, because I'm pretty sure that Darius had a Serpent's Fang that entire time.
Yeah. I mean, that is like a good thing and a bad thing, because when you have the Serpent's Fang on Darius, that means you're skipping out on the Force of Nature, which would normally greatly help you against the Mordekaiser, but you cut the shields. But is Darius the best person to really have that on? Because it's not
maybe
really
not
easy to apply. It's just pretty hard, and it kind of made it a bit weird for the Darius to play the game. I mean, we're going into the next draft. Let's see if Omega took their lessons. Now,
Interesting.
oh, Cho'Gath.
Okay, so Omega did end up dropping that game number 1, right? And that does mean that Omega does get the side selection, but Omega are the ones opting for the red side. So usually when teams do drop their first game, they opt for blue side, which we would have seen 2 blue sides in a row for Omega here. But I'm gonna be real with you, Crawl. I'm not so used to seeing the red side picks.
My understanding would be just the fact that they don't have that B1 prio, maybe not as much on the Jinx. Maybe they have like other hyper carries, and I think they're just trying to get away from the situation that they were in last game, where like the Camille last pick came through and the top laner was like, okay, I will be fine until 2 items. After 2 items, just count on FF the game and beat.
Makes sense.
So that it is a okay.
I mean, I'm just taking a random guess. Sorry.
It is the
whoa.
They didn't ban it.
Okay, all right. Now this is the one time that the Mumu does manage to get through, and Lucid immediately says, "Give me the sad boy. I want to play him." Just slams it down immediately. Jarvan as the immediate response on the other side. So, I mean, Curse of the Sad Bullet Time is still available if they so decide. Ezreal going to be picked up for Maddie here, because they know that the Misfortune is still very much a champion available for this, but just remember, there's so many other ways that you can swing this. The Corki going to be able to do a lot of damage here. Still flexible, but most often than not, we do see that in that bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they picked Ezreal more so that it's a takeaway. Like when you have Ezreal, when you pick Ezreal into Jarvan, the Jarvan basically becomes a bit useless. Like you want to lock down the ADC, you just kind of jump out of it. We see the Senna, double ADC. It is good.
Interesting.
I mean, it is fine into Braum. You have that range advantage, really easy to stack the souls, but really squishy. Like if this Amumu gets on top of any of the squishies, they're dead, unfortunately. But they do have that range advantage, and they will more than likely gonna dictate how this lane goes. So, I mean, it has pros and cons.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And I gotta say, Crawl, speaking of makes sense, I'm gonna be so real with you. I'm not so familiar as to why the Braum priority and the Senna priority here. Like Senna, it's like okay, counter pick to the Braum. Sure, makes sense. Go for it. I think there's a few other champions you could have chosen there that might not exactly be Senna, but I mean, you've got yourself quite the poke composition on the side of Omega 3 right now. In the meantime, Braum early, that's a little bit of an odd one.
Yeah, I think it is safe in the sense that you can kind of still like you're melee, but you're mainly going to be playing for your Qs and then like kind of blocking abilities with your E. So it's not as like a range commit as more like a melee commit champion like Nautilus or Fiona. It is also pretty. It's a champion that some people really like into Jarvan because once Jarvan EQs in, you kind of put the stack, stun him, and then he's kind of left overextended out of nowhere. But with the amount of range advantage that Omega has, they're not even looking to like realistically go in. It's like we chunk them down, and then once they're like kind of softened up a little bit, that's when we go in. On the other side, Conqueror Esports, they again have really great pick comp. The Mumu paired up with the Ari. You have the Aatrox that will be a drain tank in these fights. Especially if you can get on top of the squishies. Once you get one reset with Aatrox, that just means he's not gonna die for the rest of the fight.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the pick potential is phenomenal for the side of Conspiracy Esports, but more than that, there's the side laning, just like what we saw in that last game, where Aatrox and Ari are both phenomenal on those side lanes. I mean, they're very, very safe in the sides here, and especially when the only real lockdown you've got on the side of Omega 3 relies on, you know, Jarvan following up with the Senna W. I mean, I'm gonna be real with you, I'm not 100% certain as to the Gnar counter pick here, but in the meantime, Conspiracy Esports, they sent all 5 up to this top lane. They're dragging right by the wall. Xanthor could be in trouble here. Leveled the Q, does not have the hop, must flash over, but not even gonna go for it. It is first blood over to Fields. No summoners burned on either side, and that's gotta feel rough going into game 2 from a deficit.
Yep. I mean, this is the second game that Fields touched the first blood. He did get it last game too, and then let's see if they're going to be able to make more with it. They do. I mean, the Ari being ahead is pretty much your best case scenario. You didn't burn any sums to get the skill as well, but that's also feels nice. The only thing that feels a bit underwhelming is that Amumu had to start Q, so the clear is going to be a bit slower. But I think you take that every day. Like, it's just such a good one, and you see that Fields also grabbed up boots. So it is going to be a bit safer in that lane. It's going to make it a bit easier to dodge those abilities that will be kind of spammed by Yuki on the Vel'Koz. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that big of a game changer, but it's definitely going to help to get the Sari going maybe a bit earlier than we expect.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one thing to keep in mind there. I mean, the boots mean that Fields can both get the roams off and also just dodge out on all of these skill shots. I mean, it's already looking so good for Fields in that mid lane if you just take a look at those health bars. As far as those are concerned, I mean, just shove the Vel'Koz all the way into tower, but in the meantime, is just going to be the continual poke onto the Braum. Nothing too crazy going on in this bot lane just yet.
Yeah. I mean, the matchup of Corki Ezreal is something a lot of people just take because their power spikes are actually pretty much the same items. You want Triforce to manage it. Unless you're doing like a quick Corki build, but with Conqueror, I'm assuming it's going to be the Triforce. And with the same power spikes, Corki tends to be a bit better with like dealing with tanks, especially with the extra bonus 2 damage coming from for his new passive after the rework. And on the side of Ezreal, it's like he just keeps spamming abilities. So a bit different in how they play, but really similar power spikes and where they get online. So I feel like you're gonna see a pretty similar bot lane matchup in that sense.
Yeah, in the meantime, in this top lane, Gunman and Xanthor just kind of going toe-to-toe. Xanthor no longer trapped on the tank duty, but at the very least, the Gnar should be able to get a little bit of bullying down early on. Gunman not necessarily feeling too pressured by the Yordle just yet, just going to be able to pick up farm where he can, just getting very, very even up here. Meanwhile, Lucid and Caxi just going toe-to-toe once again. Caxi going to be able to pick up that scuttle. But Lucid going all the way in, feels as well.
Oh,
Flash
charm.
forward, and the charm gonna land. Lucid gonna be able to get the kill with the red buff, but feels more than happy to be a part of 2 of the kills in that early game.
Yeah, and to be honest, this is where I want to see Omega maybe do what they did best last game, where once Fields committed the flash early, they were really good at punishing Fields for burning that flash. But again, like the mid jungle seems to be on the same page right now, and Caxi didn't really respect. He still has the flash up. He
Yeah, in the
couldn't have
meantime,
flashed away, but oh.
yeah, in the meantime, Lucid running into the Dragon Pit, not going to be able to do much against 3. I mean, Omega 3 just had the early push there, had the early priority, and the flash taken away from Lucid's not going to be feeling too great here, but in the end should be doing just fine as far as this jungle mid lane is concerned. I mean, Fields is getting closer and closer to that level 6 where the RE flash is going to start mattering less and less.
Yeah, and I feel like what Omega is gonna struggle the most is that they have a lot of range, but they don't have a lot of lockdown, like, even with the Jarvan. So, like, because Corki can get out of the ulti, Ari can get out of it, even Braum can, like, delete their teammate. So, when you consider that, it's going to be really hard to set up, like, good ulti angles for said Yuki. It's mostly going to be him being patient.
Yeah, in the meantime, Lucid able to walk up, very, very patient indeed. The charm into the kill, and Feels last game around was part of all 3 of the feats of warfare. This time gonna be part of all 3 from the other side. Seems like mid lane is the place to be if you are one of these teams today. But in the meantime, Lucy gonna start up these grubs and is feeling very, very good for conspiracy fans.
Yeah, I mean, we just keep saying it. It's just like this chemistry between the soul laners and Lucid for this Conspiracy Esports squad is top notch. They're really on point with how they want to play with each other. Maybe last game, early game wasn't as good, but we saw it in mid game, and this game we're just seeing it right off the bat. Like Feels and Lucid all part of the first 3 kills. They've been playing off of each other's CC really well, and if they can keep up this tempo, they can kind of open up the map a bit more. Maybe roam to bot, roam to top. And as I say
in
that,
the meantime, yeah, Hayasaka gonna get locked down and taken out completely. No way out there for the Braum. Still retains the flash, still retains the exhaust, but will not retain that life bar, as it's going to be very, very rough for a typical name to be able to stop them. But Xanthor in a lot of trouble here. Force the flash. World Ender committed, but at the very least, the pressure getting to Xanthor. This could be very, very tough for the Gnar. Just remember, this was an R5 Gnar counterpick.
Yeah, and normally Gnar does do well. I think we've seen it last night. I think it was in the first stand. I think 369 was the one to pick it. And Gnar does get to kind of have fun in the lane if he can space. And especially with him going down early, it's been kind of an issue that if Aatrox can't, like, it's still comp lane, right? So if you do give up the lead a little bit, the other part will take a mile. Like, you're just going to struggle a lot PC-wise, gold-wise, and we can see he's already down a decent chunk of CS, just purely 500 gold lead just from the farm itself. So It's been a little bit rough. We see another 500, 550 gold lead in the jungle, and especially with the kills that Fields was able to get, also doing fine. We do see that Sayuki went for an early Merc Treads, going it for a little bit more safety. He...
Oh, and Lucid coming on in, burns the flash. And man, we're talking about the shoes, but no fancy feet available to stay away from the charm. Feels going to be able to land each and every one of these skill shots, but at the very least, the Merc Treads keep the Vel'Koz alive.
Yeah, a moment of luck even, because I think Lucid missed the bandage toss, and if that lands, he's gonna get ulted and he was gonna go down, so he does survive for the time being. I was saying, like, just having the Merc Treads, it's a little bit safer, but I don't know, with the amount of CC that the enemy team has, like, you're not gonna be CC'd for, let's say, 5 seconds, but you will be for 4. So, it is still going to be really rough. I still like it, a little bit of MR, it will definitely help in the laning phase. Farming-wise, it's been looking rough for Omega. Like, it's like bot lane, you're down 16. Mid lane, you're down like a wave. Jungle, Caxi was able to keep up a little bit further ahead, but that's mostly because Lucid has been getting a lot of value from these ganks. And yeah, top lane is where it's been really, really rough. And no flash for Xanathar here.
Yeah, and Xanthor right now has no flash, does still have the jump, still has the Swifty boots, but I don't know. Gunman has just been doing so well at keeping this top laner down. It's not even on the Gnar, whether it be on that Maokai, on that Gnar, whether it be a gank coming through. World Ender going to be committed here. No ulti available for Xanthor, but there is going to be that Dawning Shadow, but the bandage toss lands, and Xanthor trying to kite this out, but stunned up and taken to the grinder. As once again, Feels gonna ult on in Satuki, trying to walk away. You do have those tier 2 boots, but so does Feels. Yet another ult charge available. I'm gonna be able to use it to reposition the orb, but not gonna be able to land the skill shots needed. But when you got the fish in the barrel, just fire the shot.
Yeah, and it kind of just keeps going worse. It's just every time the side of Omega is forced to burn a flash, that means for the next 5 minutes, you are a target and you will die. With the amount of dashes, TC, playmaking that Conspiracy has, you're just under big threat every time you are forced to burn your flash. And Feels and Lucid, again, have been doing a really good job, and Taxi...
What? Okay,
yeah.
I mean, Gunman just barely not going to be able to survive there. Taxi does commit both the flash and the cataclysm there. Lucid immediately responding with the dragon take, but that's gotta feel pretty bad for Gunman. At that point, that's a matter of, oh, is this personal? Did I say something, right? But either way, 1 kill going over to the side of Omega 3. Gonna be feeling quite nice for them. But Gunman just gonna teleport right back top, pick up that wave once again, and retain that 25 CS lead.
Yeah, and I mean, they will be grabbing the feats. That's the 3rd objective, I think, right? 2 grubs and the dragon. So
yep.
Now you're going to fall a little further behind. I mean, feats is definitely not like a make or break type thing. But
definitely feels bad.
It definitely helps. It definitely helps if you're the ones taking it. Just like getting that a little bit more, like either armor, MR, just a little bit more movement speed when you have the boots. It can really define some of these fights. And
I mean, especially when you have so many of the Swifty boots on the side of Omega 3. I feel like of the boots in the game, you know, Swifties and Ionian are 2 of the ones that get the most from feats, purely because it's just raw stats added onto exactly what you bought them for.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's also really good in general because at least for the mercs and tabbies or the steel caps, they're more conditional even when you upgrade them. But when you get these like Mercedes boots with the trees, you just like get like every time you shield or do damage, you get ability like movement speed. And you see another fight. Oh, the flash.
Yeah, but oh my god, never mind. We were just talking about shoes here, but instead these two teams are looking for death. Maddie going to barely be able to dodge away from that charm. Dashes in, but feels not going to be able to get much in response. True Shot Barrage going to go wide here. And Satsuki walking in towards the spot lane, trying to get involved in the party, but no one invited the Vel'Koz, and Vel'Koz not going to be able to get involved whatsoever.
Yeah, I feel like it was a over-ambitious attempt from Fields. Like, he didn't really need to burn the flash for any reason, but he still goes for it, you know, why not? But yeah, Ari is not going to have the flash, so that might be maybe an opportunity to shut the Ari down, get some extra gold onto one of your carries. We also see the items are finally coming through. The Eclipse finished for Gunman, the Lianji's finally completed for Lucid. I feel like Fields had that Malignance for a hot minute now.
Oh,
So like the first items are coming through for most people on the side of
yeah, meanwhile, I, in a typical name, just going to be able to waltz right on out of there. I mean, Kaxi jumps in, those two jump out, and there's just nothing really that they can do here. I mean, this was with the counter pick on that Senna, with the counter pick on that, you know, Gnar, but both of these picks, they're just not really doing so much in their respective lanes. I mean, 80 carries are feeling pretty much even. Supports, you might have the gold disparity slightly in the Senna's favor, but that's largely due to the souls. And meanwhile, top lane, definitely not feeling good for Xanthor.
Yeah, and like this is why this Jarvan pick is going to struggle so much. The fact that you picked it just from seeing a Mumu means that the enemy team will just draft things that can just get out of the Cataclysm, and you just lose so much of what Jarvan brings to the table. And like in these team fights, you will probably see it in the future as well. I mean, Dragon's coming up. I feel like the Conspiracy Esports, they should not make the mistake that Omega did and try to get to the soul as fast as possible.
Oh my god, but Lucid all of a sudden gonna go in with both bandage toxins, just commits the ultimate, has to flash out, but it's the shutdown going over to Xanthor, and the Merc Treads just barely able to keep Satsuki alive, able to flash out just barely in time. Had that charm landed, it was certainly a dead Vel'Koz, but instead what we're going to be able to analyze is not the Vel'Koz's dead body, but the Amumu's.
Yeah, a bit of a misplay from Lucid as well. Like, really well played from Satsuki. Flashes away at the right time. The Mercs providing a lot of value. But then after the flash, Lucid said, okay, you know what? I'll just go for another bandage toss. And that's when Xanthor showed up from topside. Perfect timing. And I think you have to look for something like this. Like, staying in lane is definitely not working out for the time being for the Nard. The first turret is also lost. So you have to find value somewhere else, and he's able to do that. Maybe getting this Vel'Koz going a little bit will be helpful, but that's a good chunk of damage.
Yeah, that is a chunk of damage here, especially because Levantane's not going the healing Senna build. It is just going to be that AD. Hayasaka Ai just able to walk straight up, not going to be able to get much done with that ultimate, but in the end, Braum still very, very much looking to just walk straight on forward. Lucid misses another bandage toss. Please don't throw the second one in the same way we saw the last time. But right now, Dragon is getting started up for the side of Conspiracy, and only two are in the pit here. Hayasaka able to jump on out, and we might be seeing another team fight on our hands.
Yeah, but I feel like the issue that Conspiracy might run into right now is that they don't have flashes, and if they are not able to get on... Oh, he comes through.
Yeah,
I mean,
TP comes
to come
through
into
as
TP,
well.
it surely is just Dragon for Conspiracy. Oh,
Yeah, and
Fields.
Fields goes straight on in. Gets a huge chunk onto Satsuki. Not going to be able to do much more than that, though. True Shot Barrage comes through. Not even close to taking that dragon yet. But another charm comes on in, and 2 kills over to the Corki, and once again, Conspiracy Esports going to be able to run away with this one, and yet another all-in going in the favor of Conspiracy. That's 4, that's almost 5, and the one Gnar to survive just gets burned down under tier 2 tower when tier 1 is still up. But a clean ace for the side of Conspiracy Esports. I'm a little hesitant to say this, but Crawl, I think the game might be over.
Yeah, it's looking a bit rough. I'm surprised that Omega kind of stuck around for so long after the TP came through from Gunman. It's like, you don't have Gnar. Gnar was trying to walk from base. He didn't want to TP. At that point, just give, reset, grab some waves. Do not take the fight. You're already behind. So you have to be looking for these fights in these, like, in pretty much like perfect scenarios for you. And if it's not perfect, it is probably not a good fight. And they make the call. No, I wouldn't even say make the call, but like they stuck around too much, and they found out that it was not a good idea. So now the Corki out of nowhere gets a couple more kills, finishes the man immune. Oh, we see the ulti being committed to clear the wave, but I don't think it's going to change much. Maddie is going to pick a little bit of gold, which must feel nice. It's been really rough. Omega hasn't really been able to involve Maddie in these early games at all, and especially with like the bot lane matchup where you're playing like 2 range into Braum, you have a lot of prio. The fact that you're behind dragons, the rest of the map is also kind of getting ran down. Oh, we see a fight.
Yeah, but look at yet another fight getting started up here. A teleport in from Fields does not have the teleport available, does have the flash though. And what looked like a routine, Herald take just turned into yet another team fight, as Omega 3, they're just starting to force a lot of these fights, just saying, all right, well, we're falling behind. We want to make something happen. But I don't know. I feel like it might be a little too late here, as they may have missed their early to mid window. It's a little bit difficult to play from behind into a team composition that has such good engage into you. Otacon gonna get started up here as well, as Gunman and Lucid, the 2 of them together, are gonna take on the world known as, I believe this is just the Ravenous Otacon.
Yeah, I don't think there was like enough blood in the early game. But yeah, I mean, if you compare this to the last game, like, last game Conspiracy Esports was in a rough spot, but the difference was, they had Vincons. Oh, it was actually flawless, I think, and we see another fight mid, and Senna is dead.
Yeah, just one quick fight, Senna dies, and oh my god, the Horizon Focus doing so much work already. One more charm going to miss, but Hayasaka Eye just blocking up everything with that unblockable. In the meantime, Maddie looking to Arcane Shift forward, looking to try to make something happen. We saw so much damage coming out from this AD carry player in the last game, but a typical name came out on top as yet another tower goes down in that top lane.
We're gonna lose top tier 2 as well, and the gold lead kind of keeps growing and growing. As we saw a couple seconds ago, like, the gold lead top is just monsters now. And what I was trying to say before was that, like, Conspiracy was able to win that. Oh no, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, Satsuki just really wanted to get that wave cleared, potentially able to get that kill onto Hayasaka Eye, but I mean, at this point in time, it gets so difficult for the Vel'Koz to stand his ground. It's very rough for the side of Omega 3. The World Ender completed, and a typical name goes unstoppable. Gunman still looking to run down Maddie and Caxi, but the only thing getting away from Omega 3 right now is this potential for a win, and yet another all-in. Beautiful Gnar under the tower. Cataclysm as well, and all of a sudden Maddie goes straight forward into 2. Not going to be able to do it. A typical name just barely able to survive with the big one over their shoulder, able to take that Ezreal out. I mean, we're seeing these flashes of brilliance, Crawl, but the question is, can they hinder these flashes into a full-on fire?
I mean, they kind of keep walking up mid a bit too much, and they just keep getting caught. This was just overextension. I feel like at this point, Conspiracy is just feeling, we'll just win whatever we do. And it was really close. I think Xanthar was like almost on the last seconds of Gnar and got a good ulti off of it. And they did get a shutdown, you know, like it's still good, but
yeah,
Maddie
in the
goes
meantime,
down again as well.
yeah, in the meantime, we're seeing them fight over at the Dragon as Conspiracy just know that Omega 3 are looking for this Dragon. Yet another Gnar into the wall. Beautiful stuff. But Gunman 1v4 into the back line. And no one's able to take out the Aatrox. Feels now able to join the party. One ult forward. Maddie goes down. A second ult forward. Satsuki not going to get tagged by the charm, but is going to go down. And the third ult just back to safety, as Dragon is going to surely be taken up by Conspiracy here.
Yeah, they're just slapping them with their wallets at this point. Like, the fight initially was a good look, but the only issue is that Yuki is 1-5, and it's not the damage that you would like from the Vel'Koz. And, like, if it was a different game state, maybe they probably could have cleaned that fight up, like, the initial engage,
Maybe.
But doesn't work that way.
All I'm saying is last time we saw someone who was 1-5 in mid lane on the red side, right? It ended up working out very, very well for them. I mean, Fields was 1-5 at the beginning of the last game, but this is a 1-5 Vel'Koz 25 minutes in. This is a very different game state.
I will also be really surprised that if they can actually execute around this Vel'Koz with his team comp. Like, last game, the main reason they won was because Camille was able to create so much pressure that Orianna, all she had to do was just zone and then just create time, just do a little bit of damage, back out, do a little bit more, and then eventually, like, look for a shockwave. With how this game is, it is way harder. Like, they need, oh, damn. That last one almost beefed Gunman, but they're doing fine, and then World Ender comes through.
Yeah, World Ender comes through, and Xanthor goes down. Yet another Cataclysm fully committed here. Meanwhile, Fields is 1v2ing on the bottom. Maddie taking so much damage. Not a single skill shot needs to land as Maddie goes all the way down. Fields still gonna be able to stay alive. The snipe from the Q. Satsuki still showing some signs of life here. And in the end, I don't know, the 1-5 power spike might kind of come through, but we'd say if it wasn't the entirety of Conspiracy making their way over to Baron.
Yeah. He's showing his geometry knowledge there. Yeah, a little bit of a angle play coming from the Vel'Koz. But again, it's like, you're so far behind that I don't think we can afford to walk into a jungle like this. It's just too hard. You don't have anyone reliable in the front line to tank any damage. Like, Taxi goes in to try to help Xanathor, but Taxi goes down, and like Maddie, regardless of how well he can play this, it's just too much gold deficit. Sorry is too strong, and he just goes down to W. I mean, a consolation prize for Sayuki with this last kill here, but
boop.
I don't think it's going to be any game-changing play for the side of Omega 3. Like, when we look at the items again, like 3 items completed for Lucid, Death Cap almost finished for Fields, and on the other side we see 2 amp cones. So things are a little bit rough for Yuki in the mid lane, and yeah, like the Corki is also on 3 items. Taxi looking for something, but
yeah, looking for something, not really gonna find much though. In the meantime, we look at that mid lane. There's a little bit more pressing of a tower to be taken care of here, y'all, as the rest of the team peels off and also goes up to this top lane. In the meantime, Gunman just continue to push down these side lanes, and just as we mentioned. I mean, I gotta say, right, when your mid laner shows up to a party with 2 amp tones and the enemy mid laner shows up with 2 needlessly large rods, I think there's one person you're a little bit more afraid of.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you just look at ADCs, it's just like porting the 3 items. Ezreal still has some components for his 3rd item, and yeah, he's just like the golds on the carries are too much, the gold differences. And on top, I think oh, never mind. You're seeing another fight.
But
Good
hold on.
Mommy.
Yeah. Good ulti coming in from Lucid, and they're going straight on in under the Nexus towers as well. Gunman has not a care in the world. Double kill going over to Fields, and yet another huge world ender value coming in. Lucid gets a little bit too antsy there, but Gunman's literally fighting Maddie and Levantine on the fountain and doesn't have a single worry in the world. The Nexus will surely go down, and Conspiracy Esports with a 2-0 victory. This time wasn't even close to a comeback match. It was a very, very solid game from the beginning to finish. That all started with that one early 5-man invade.
Yeah, and feels kind of made up. I don't want to say made up because he had a good game 1, but at least the laning phase part he kind of struggled, and this time around he's just said, you know what, I'll just take over the game. It's fine. I got this, guys. Kind of sit back, let me do what I do, and him and Lucid just was perfect in the early game. Like, and I think we've seen this a lot in the bot lane matchup this series, where if you're just like a handshake, okay, we're never gonna do anything bot lane. And it just kind of translates into, if you're not doing anything bot lane, that is exactly what Conspiracy wants to do, because they already want to play around their soul lanes. So it just gives Lucid even more chances to, okay, my bot lane is going to be fine, 0-0-0, even CS, and if I get my top laners ahead, the game is won. He wasn't able to do that game 1, but they still came back, and game 2, they were able to execute it, and it was pretty much a stomp.
Yeah, exactly what you're talking about, Xanthor. I mean, Omega 3, a lot of the time, they're just looking to stabilize, looking to keep things very, very calm and collected so that way they can get to those mid-game fights, get to those late-game team fights, right, with the 5v5s that they're really looking for. Meanwhile, as you were saying, this entire series, Conspiracy Esports say, we don't care about the team fight. We're looking for picks. We're looking for our side laners. We're looking to just drag you all across the map, and it works out for them here. It is going to solidify their position as the #1 team in Group B. But that will be it for us today. It is going to just be a best of 3. I believe it is best of 5 starting next week, so make sure to tune into that one. But thank you all so much for joining us. I've been Anti, and I've been joined by the wonderful Kral. Thank you for tuning in for us, and y'all have a wonderful weekend.